What's up, guys? So today we're going to be going over SMT. You guys have been begging for this video. I was gonna make it just because I don't know, it's just too good, man. It's just too good. Now I'm not gonna show everything, but I'm probably gonna show like 40% or something like that, which is more than enough, man. Like you're not gonna find this stuff anywhere. Now, it's not all of this stuff is obviously like brand new or anything like that. I'm not claiming that, but you're not gonna find it for free. Like, try to go look up Tuesdays SMT on YouTube. You're not gonna find it. Try to go look up lagging asset. Try to go look up shrink switching. You're not gonna find it, bro. So like, what I'm giving you here for free, dude, is a lot. You know, um, like I said, you guys have been wanting this. I know it's gonna help a lot of people. SMT is obviously a very popular concept, very extremely good concept, but it can be very damaging, right? Because they form everywhere. It's like, which one do I pick? Which one's fake? Which one's real? Well, you're about to find out. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. This is really the key to my trading. So you guys see me trade almost every day. I'm demanding this type of stuff. It's not just an SMT, okay? It's like an SMT that's confirmed essentially, and not SMT is not confirmed by CSD. That's not a confirmation to a SMT. It's this type of stuff, and like I said, I'm not teaching all of it, but you're gonna learn enough to where like you can apply it to your trading and stuff. So, what is an SMT? So there's many forms of SMT. So here's one of them, the most commonly um, referred to is an SMT between two correlated markets, and one asset takes out the high. So they're correlated markets are going to create the same highs and lows, and one asset is going to take out that high. Where if we compare the chart to the other asset, it doesn't take that high. So that's the Kraken correlation, which is hinting at reversal. So whenever you trade into a key level or create an SMT, I trade swing points. So you can refer to this like the fractal model. We wait for a candle to closure or a swing point to form. That's our first instinct, right? Is because the market can't reverse without a swing point. Hence, T-Trade's fractal model. That's a whole idea behind his model. So we're waiting for a swing point, okay? Now, where a lot of people go wrong is they only want to focus on this asset, okay? Where it's the one that sweeps, but you need to reverse engineer that, and you need to be looking at this asset, okay? Because this asset here needs to reverse. It needs to trade in this direction, which obviously we want this asset to go. So it's like correlated markets, they need to be in correlation to expand. Okay, so if this asset fails to reverse, this one won't reverse. So you need both of them to reverse to expand, away from this sweep or this SMT, etc. So what you want to see, this is what's going to look like, right? Where this is a true reversal where both assets expand, ideally, right? So very simple, but how do you gauge that this asset will expand? Well, this is where strength switching comes in. So what we want to see ideally is this asset that was previously stronger, right? Because it is stronger. We want it to momentarily switch strength right after this SMT, right? To catch up to this asset so they can do what? So they can become correlated, so they can expand. Okay, this is how markets expand. So we measure that with strength switching. So like I said, as soon as we create this higher high, we're going to be gauging switching and strength a couple different ways. So here's one of them. Immediately following the SMT that swept the displacement leg, it's going to create a larger gap, hinting that it's weaker, right? Momentarily to catch up to this one, where this asset is creating a larger or smaller gap. So that's hinting that this asset is switching to the weaker one, right? Where it was originally stronger. Another one will be this asset will not fill in a gap while this one will. They're going to create the same swing lows in the market. They're going to create the same opposing candles where this asset closes below the low, before this one, or maybe this one doesn't close below the low, or this one CSTs first before this one. So these are just all different types of switching at strength, right? So they're going to create the same displacement legs where maybe this displacement leg is larger than this one, or maybe the retracement is shallower than this one. Again, it's just a switch in strength. Now this is what it's going to look like on the kind of like the overall view, right? Where we can kind of view this maybe as this is the hourly chart, for example. Maybe this is a daily swing point high. We have our first SMT, so as soon as we create an SMT, what's the things we look for? Well, it's a swing point, but the main thing, we want all the markets to expand away. So we're looking at this asset, and we want it to momentarily switch to the weaker asset, right? So what you're going to see is this asset is more so expanding. Well, this one is going to be like more lackluster, but I don't want it to expand in the opposite direction. I want it to either be making deeper retracements or having, smaller gaps or consolidating, right? It's still continuation here, but it's lackluster. Well, this asset is expanding. So why is it doing that? To catch up to this asset, okay? So what you're seeing is, two-stage SMT, which is something we're going to get into later on. But this is what's going to look like, okay? This is like the whole picture here. Let's get into a lagging asset. So a lagging asset is when we create an SMT, but it doesn't reverse, right? We don't have that expansion away on the asset that swept. What if it just consolidates? It just like phases the price. If we expand to a high, or maybe expand through a high, and then maybe consolidate, well, those are not reversal signatures. So what does that tell you? That this asset is not going to reverse, because this asset over here, if it didn't reverse, then this one can't reverse. So oftentimes, this is when we can trade the lagging asset to actually trade into the SMT high that's essentially fake. Like this is a fake SMT. Okay, that's how you filter SMTs. It's like if the asset that sweeps doesn't reverse, well, it's a fake SMT. We can actually target that high that was previously an SMT, if that makes sense. Now, what's the most ideal scenario to trade a lagging asset? Well, it's a switch in strength, right? We want this asset that was previously lagging, that was weaker, right? We want it to switch momentarily bullish to catch up to this high, or this high, right? Now this is one form where there's an SMT at the lows, which is going to be the trigger. This is not the ideal version. It's actually this, where we create a higher high, because that would be signifying what? A switch in strength. So here you go, lagging asset, strength switch. This is the ideal scenario. And there's a couple different forms of this, but this is one of them, right? Where it's the SMT. It can also be, where this asset is creating larger gaps while this one isn't. So again, there's different types of forms. I'm not showing all of them. Like they're not in the previous slides or whatever, but again, this is going to be the most common one, right? So here's what I refer to with failure swing SMT. This is really, really specific to when we're in a bullish market, for example, and we're having like a bullish consolidation, for example, and then one asset, the asset that sweeps, it sweeps all the failure swings. Well, the asset that's creating a failure swing is just a part of a bunch of failure swings. It's like really close to these failure swings. So what is that creating? A bunch of low resistance liquidity when we're already in a bullish market. So if you expand, you consolidate, well, it's going to expand again. So this SMT, where it's with a bunch of failure swings, is generally going to never hold. Okay, so what this is, it's failure swing SMT, which is like a fake SMT in my book, where I would want to trade this lagging asset to this high, to these highs still. Okay, so I wouldn't be viewing this as a true reversal. Okay, another another SMT that I would look out for that's fake generally is, for example, with like daily highs and lows or weekly highs and lows, where like there's no wick, okay, on both assets, and then one asset trades into the wick, or trades into the opening price of those candles that is creating a wick, okay, and where the other asset doesn't. So there's an SMT there, but it's irrelevant because the asset that's creating a failure swing still has a wickless candle, so there's still a reason for return back to that area. So therefore, it's not a high probable SMT. Now let's get into two-stage SMT. So again, there is many forms of two-stage SMT. I'm going to teach you a couple of them. So this is going to be like the same time frame SMT, or close proximity highs and lows. So what this means is, let's pretend there is a daily fair value gap to the left, okay, and we have an SMT in that gap. Pretend this is the hourly chart, so just standard time frame alignment, where we have one asset switching, or sorry, we have one asset sweeping. That's the initial SMT, so we're always paying attention to the asset that sweeps, right? and we want it to switch bearish. Okay, so this is like your two-stage SMT, and it can almost look like a roof, right? Here's your roof, but it doesn't have to look like this always. It can be later on in the leg where we switch strength, but the switch in strength is key. Do you notice how the switching in strength is very key here? This is what no one talks about. So like you're learning something very important for free. Like where I don't even teach this type of stuff, by the way. It's like I was gonna never teach it, but I'm just teaching it free. I'm not here for your money, so. And this stuff really works, so check this out. This is what it's going to look like for another type of two-stage SMT. So this can be on any time frame, by the way. There could be maybe a swing point that gets sweeps in the hourly to the left. Okay, like over here. Maybe it's the 5-minute chart, and you're seeing two-stage SMT like this. Now, like I said, this is closer proximity highs and lows. What happens if your first SMT is like really far away? So pretend this is the hourly chart again. This is the daily swing point high. So the daily swing point high is way to the left. We're going to be viewing this as our higher time from SMT or our large range SMT, right? So a lot of the times when you have these SMTs way off to the left, sometimes they're going to be fake, where like this asset will just trade into this high later on. It's just lagging behind. How do you know if it's a true reversal? It's when we get a two-stage SMT. So it's an SMT confirmed by an SMT essentially, where it's like a larger time from SMT or a large range SMT confirmed by a small range SMT or a lower time from SMT. And ideally, we want it to switch strength. Okay, ideally, because again, we're still applying the same concept, right? It's still the same thing. Where like the asset that sweeps ideally switches strength in some capacity. So that's what you see here. And like I said, this is a two-stage SMT, but it's a higher time frame to lower time frame essentially. Now this is a two-stage SMT that's a little bit lower probability. So you see how this asset, it gets created here. So whenever you see an asset that creates an SMT like right here, and it creates a swing point, like it should reverse from here. Like that's what I want to see. What if it doesn't? What if you create new higher highs? That's automatically lower probability because this asset didn't reverse, right? But what if it's holding this SMT? So I'm not going to trade this here until we get a strength switch. Okay, so see how strength switching is very key here, extremely key. So as long as this SMT holds and then we get a strength switch, that's the trigger for this, essentially like this SMT that you see here, to actually expand away. And generally, this is how a higher time frame retracements occur. So like when you see this, it's not going to be like an SMT that's going to hold for the long term. I have a couple examples of this, like recent PA, but this is the trigger. Like I would never trust it until we get a strength switch. Okay, so this is another type of two-stage SMT. Like I said, it's a little bit lower probability, and that's all the slides here. So let's get into some examples. So if I refer to something over here, again, I don't even know what the hell. Okay, yeah, it was probably over here. Let's just start. Hold on, dude. This is so cooked. Yeah. Okay, cool. There's a bunch of examples over here. Okay. And what I'm going to show you here is a type of SMT. I'll just show you guys. So here's obviously your first SMT. Okay. If I go to YM, so when I refer to RTY, which is an index or indice, I'm gonna always refer to YM. I'm never gonna use RTY and ES and NQ. It's only RTY with YM. Okay. Now with YM, I can use pretty much anything. Okay. But what you're gonna see here is like this is your first SMT, right? But immediately following this SMT that you see here. Okay, I don't know why it's not appearing. Awkward. Cool. All right. So it was bearish, but now you're seeing a SMT between bodies. So you see how we create a higher high here? We're over here, we create a lower low. We're not sweeping out this low, but it's between the bodies. The lowest body within this reversal here, and the lowest body between this reversal. Okay. So do you see how this is a two-stage SMT? Where originally we were weaker, but now we're switching some sort of strength, right? Now obviously this is a little bit lower probability, just because we don't sweep out these lows. I ideally want to see it here, but this is a type of two-stage SMT. I just wanted to throw that in there because I just remember that. Now, what I was going to show you guys was over here. Again, this is going to be a long video. I don't even have a lot of this stuff marked out. So this is something I did trade here. What day was it? It was this day. So let's check out this SMT. I also want to show you this too. So it's like, it's everywhere, guys. So it's like, I can really pick anything. So if we just think about weekly profiling, what is this week opening near? It's opening near this relevant low, and then all these failure swings up here. So it's like in a range, obviously. So if you see the weekly candle opening low first, what does that generally support? A bullish candle, right? Where the open low is leaving behind an unestablished high of the week. It's just 1800 is the high of the week. Do you really think that's gonna be the high of the week? No. So when you see an SMT opposing to that, so you see this relevant low, you see the space between this low and this low. That's what creates a relevant low. Now, when you manipulate a relevant low, that's what creates a protected low. Right. So there's your SMT here with YM. Now, what are some things we want to see? We want to see YM momentarily switch to the stronger asset just to catch up. That's like the trigger for a reversal. Okay. It doesn't mean that this asset is going to get here first. That doesn't mean that. It just means that this asset here is going to expand. Like it's confirming some sort of expansion, and that's all that price needs. That's all. We just need all the markets to be trading in the same direction. Okay, for markets to actually expand. So do you see this gap here? How it's pretty large. When I go to this asset, there is no gap. Okay, so that's a form of strength switching, right? And if I go over here, do you see this leg here? There's no pullback. But over here, there is a pullback. It's right here. Okay, so while this asset is pulling back because it already created, or damn near, it already created a new high of week. And over here, it didn't. We're not even close. Like if I bar replay this, where did we start to? Yeah, so you see right here we hit the weekly open over here. While over here, where are we at here? It's this candle here. Right, we're not even freaking close, bro. Do you see that? So it's like this asset was expanding in this candle here to catch up while this asset was retracing. You see that? And then it hits a gap. Okay, so this asset hits a gap so it can continue from, right? Well, this asset is just continuing, right? So that's the difference there between like a true reversal and a lagging asset. Okay, we see some sort of switching in strength. Now we're going to see later on is something I traded, which was very counter trend. Now there's another reason why I traded this, but we'll just get into a simple version of this. So here's your higher time from SMT. So even on your way to withdraw liquidity like this, okay, on your way to withdraw liquidity, you're not going to have every single day. So if I go on like NQ and ES, you're not going to have every single day where it is going to be like a bullish expansion day, okay? But what do you need to trade this is a very one-sided narrative to get to the highs. So obviously trading counter trend is lower probability, but what do you need to require? You need to require two-stage SMT. It's absolute must, okay? Now when you're trading pro trend, you don't need as much confirmation when the reversal is actually put in, right? Because you have the higher time frame supported by by your ideas, right? So if you check here, whoops, there is no low of the day. It's just 1800. So remember I said that if there's an SMT here, so there's not over here. I think there's like, yeah, there's SMT here. I don't care about this SMT because there's still a reason to return back here on YM. So this SMT is irrelevant. Now what we're going to see here is here's your large time from SMT here, right? Boom. Confirmed by what? A small range SMT. So here the high of day is 9 o'clock. Over here it is 10 o'clock. So there's your large time from SMT followed by small range SMT. What do you want the asset to do that sweeps? We're waiting for it to switch. We want it to expand. So see how this here on the 5-minute chart, it's just expanding while this asset was creating or kind of consolidating or creating a higher high. So this is very key, right? And what you're going to see, when did this asset actually reverse? Truly reverse. Do you see right here, this piece of price action here? Okay, so 11 o'clock is the high here, which is the high of the 11 o'clock candle. So I'm just trading at the fractal model here. You see how it's a bullish close? Over here it's bearish. Okay, and right here you don't have any bullish candles right here, but over here you do. Okay, so that's the switching at strength. So it's constantly happening. Okay, which can be kind of confusing. But what's really key is this exactly. So it's essentially a two-stage. Okay, so it's like the first switch in strength is from the higher time frame. So boom, you get it there. But and then you have this asset that's swept right here. So what do you want it to do? Switch strength, right, to expand lower. So that's what you see on the lower time from here. So you see how it's fractal? It's pretty cool. So I'm trading this day. So I took this is on my Twitter or whatever you want to look at. The execution posted. I took it to this low. Now why am I trading to this low and not anywhere lower? Like I said, it's counter trend, and you're trading a reversal candle. So if I show you the wick here, whoops, not fractal model. If I show you the wick here, you see this large opposing run. If I want to be short, this is part of bearish expansion candle. So what does that tell you? It's going to close a reversal candle with a very large wick and a small body. So it's not going to basically close past the opening price because the wick size doesn't support it. So you have to adjust your targets. It doesn't mean you can't trade it. You just have to adjust your targets. So if you look at the 4-hour candle, yeah, I'm still trading GXT. I'm still trading a 4-hour expansion candle. Okay, it's just a 10 a.m. reversal, and as well as 9:30 is creating this as well. By the way, specifically on these assets over here, it's trading to a level, and then 10 o'clock is reversing, which is the ideal scenario for a 10 a.m. reversal. Guys, I'm getting kind of sidetracked here, but as we see it both days, right? So now let's move on to some more examples. I'm just trying to refer to this piece of, oh yeah, never mind, we're not done. Hold on. So check this out too on the higher time frame. So what we're going to see is that we took out these highs here on ES on the 24th of April, as you see on NQ and ES, but YM, we did not take these highs out. So it's like, what would be a true reversal is these assets to reverse, obviously, like all the assets to reverse. But what do we see? The market starts to do what? Consolidate. So what do we say about an SMT that consolidates? It is not a reversal signature. So that means that YM should catch up to these highs. Now, what's the ideal scenario for the market to catch up? Is this asset to switch to the stronger asset? One of my favorite things to do is to trade a lagging asset. Because it's obviously not like a guaranteed draw on liquidity, but it's very high probability. So here's what you see, right, where the Friday low of the 25th of April is taken out or not taken out. Where over here it is, and this is significant because this is a relevant swing. Okay, so if you watch my last video, I talked a little bit about it. The space between these lows is a relevant swing. These are all failure swings. So the weekly is just kind of consolidating and then manipulating, right, a relevant swing to form the low of the week, right? Look here, you have the previous week is an expansion candle, a reversal candle, and you have that small wick where, it's supporting that expansion move or whatnot, right? So what you saw though is a strength switch, which is the key for this asset to reach this high. Now what you're going to see even intraday is a two-stage SMT. So the asset that creates a higher high, a higher low right here, is sweeping out this low. You see that? It's sweeping out this low. Now if I go to ES, for example, where it was originally weaker, but it momentarily switches to the strongest asset. And this is a strength switch, but it's a two-stage SMT. So I don't care about an SMT that forms like this, like a double sweep. Although that is a two-stage SMT, it's just a bit lower probability. Well, not even a bit lower probability, it is lower probability. So a lot of people don't know that, but this is the ideal scenario for a two-stage SMT. So we also can confirm this with the driver. What is the driver doing? It's 9:30 is expanding into this low, okay? And then 10 o'clock is reversing. Again, this is the ideal scenario for a 10 a.m. reversal. It's not just any 10 a.m. reversal. There's actually a negative condition for a 10 a.m. reversal. But this is not that. So here's your first stage SMT. And obviously this is a fractal model, but I want you to look here. NQ trades into this gap first, which is creating an SMT on the lower time frame. See this? So it's like, how do you know if it's fake? Look at YM. Look how far away YM is. Like, how do you know it's fake? Well, we can fractalize it. And what do we also see? Like, this is strength switching, where NQ and ES took out this low, but we're getting to this high before YM. You see that? Which is very interesting. So that's a form of strength switching, right? But what you're going to see is even more. So you see that how this asset that swept did not reverse. It's consolidating. You see that? Now, what do we see over here? It's a very slight switch in strength. So you see how we're more so expanding in a way, while this asset's more so sideways. You see this is a bearish close here. This is bullish. These are bullish. So you clearly see some sort of switching in strength, which tells you that we are indeed going to reach this high. So this is another example of trading a lagging asset. Okay. And I think we have like some SMT here as well. So 1025 gets taken. I don't know about over here, to be honest. 1025 does not, okay, it doesn't get taken. But again, it's not just with highs and lows, or again, this is not like a relevant SMT, by the way. Like, that wouldn't be necessarily like a relevant SMT. It's just showing a switch in strength. That's what we're using it for. Okay. And yeah, so that's that version. We're first fractalizing it, and I think that's all I was going to show you guys for this, because I have a lot of examples. So we'll go and exit out of that, just so it's not confusing. Now let's go ahead and move on. We need to hurry up because I don't want this to be like too long. But what I want you guys to see here is actually a couple things. So let's just look at this higher time frame retracement. Okay, which is something I did trade. So as you see, here's your large time frame SMT with a daily swing point high. Now, what's the trigger for this retracement? It's a two-stage SMT. So what's the high of the day this day? It's 2 a.m. over here. And after they created the low of the day, the high of the day is 6 a.m. Okay, which forms the retracement. Okay, so when I tell you this strength switching, this is strength switching, by the way. It's a two-stage SMT, but it's important that it's a strength switch SMT, or a strength switch. You see that? That's why this works. Okay. Now if we go to the lows as well, if I can freaking find it, if I have it marked out right. So the asset that was originally weaker because we didn't take out this high, right? You see that? What is it doing intraday? It's creating a higher high at the low of the day, where over here it's creating a lower low. Now I also want you to see another thing. How do you know that this SMT is fake? Right here. This is something I took right here. I took both days. So you guys see me trading a lot. Well, now you know how and why. But if you look here, there's an SMT, right? But do I consider this a true SMT? No, because of the strength switch. That's one reason. But another reason is you have a strength switch on our way to this high, which tells you that that's one reason why you can already tell that all the assets are going to expand to this high. So do you see how intraday RB is the weakest asset in this triad? Because there's no fair value gap here. You see that? Prior to this expansion. Well, over here, we obviously have some sort of expansion, right? But if I go over here to RB, so we have some sort of lower low here, by the way. I have to find it. So I think it's right here. So 915. No, hold on. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. It's 830 low gets taken out. It gets taken over there. What about over here? 830 does not get taken out over here. So you have this SMT here. But what do we see immediately following this SMT? Is we see that we obviously know that HO is the strongest one because it took out the high. Okay, like overall it's the strongest one. But what we're seeing, you know, on our way to that high, what are we seeing? So the asset that swept, that was originally the weakest asset. You see this expansion here? You see how large it is? Let's go to the strongest asset. It's smaller, right? So what does that tell you? Over here, it's like medium size. What does that tell you? Is that the other assets are just picking up strength to expand into this high. Okay, and like I said, if this is going to be a true reversal, I want this to switch to the weaker asset, but I want it. I don't want the other assets to be expanding. That's how you know that this is not a an SMT here where it's like switching strength. Because yeah, this is momentarily switching to the weakest one, but that's the difference. Okay, so you can generally when you have like, never mind, I'm not going to get to that. It's going to be too much. But this is what I traded here, by the way. It's just this fair value gap. I forgot exactly what I traded, but no, this is not what I traded. I traded this fair value gap, yeah. And what I'm doing is I'm TPing when the assets hit this high. So I think I TP'd when CL took this high, by the way. It was CL here. I do believe. I didn't wait for all the assets to hit this high, but right here. Because if the other assets are going to expand, then that means that this asset can obviously expand as well. Okay, right through the high. It's expanding through the high until these assets hit this high, and that's when I can TP. So exactly right here is exactly when I TP. Okay, so around 3R. Because if you look at this retracement size, it's a lot deeper. Because remember, they're going to create the same expansion leg following the SMT here. Okay, but it's really the switch in strength. That's the important part, right? You see the shallow retracement compared to this one. There's your switch in strength, which tells you that all the assets are going to expand this high. So that's that example. A few examples on oil. I have another one here, apparently. Oh yeah, this is something I traded, so check this SMT. Here's your large time from SMT. If I go to RB, we take this low out. So it's an SMT with a gap. Excuse my shitter net here. As you see, we're trading into that gap, okay, on the other assets. So what's the trigger for these assets here, the weakest ones, to have some sort of expansion back higher or some sort of move higher? Because I'm trading a reversal day, obviously. Like, look at this candle. It's a reversal candle. So it's more so just counter trend to the daily range. How do I anticipate this move happening? Well, I need a strength switch. I need the other assets to have some sort of move back in the range. And what's the trigger for that? It's a strength switch. Okay, we're repeating the same thing over and over. Okay, this is a bit weird, where this feed in particular doesn't take out this low, or this one does. This happens very rarely, but it's a bit weird. But as you see here, we do take out this low right here. So here's your strength switch. When I pull it over here, it's this SMT. Okay. Now, remember what I said, like when we don't reverse immediately from this low, I'm going to wait for what? A strength switch to be the trigger. Okay. Because this asset held this SMT over here. Okay. Where we saw like these assets didn't really manipulate this low, obviously. So when you see this, what did I tell you guys? It's likely going to be a retracement. Okay, so this is what it actually ended up being, is retracement. And you see that the low of the day here is 5 o'clock. Over here, the low of the day, sorry, I have to go to this one. Fucking hell, right here. The low of the day is 8 o'clock. So there's that SMT there. And I traded this back into EQ, this range, because it's just a retracement. But you see that daily is opening low first. That is one of the requirements, which we'll go over candle profiles. Candle profiles are extremely important and probably also misunderstood, like how to trade open, high, low, close, etc. But I'm trading to this swing point high, which is in premium, which resides in this 4-hour gap right here. So that was my trade, and that's the Tuesday's SMT there, which is the trigger for some sort of move back in the range. So let's move on here. Now, here's an example I showed last video about drivers. So prior to this driver, we manipulated. So what should we do? We should expand. But what I just want to show you guys here, really briefly, is a strength switch, some strength switching stuff. So first off, like the asset that was the strongest in the triad, which is gold, after this expansion, what are we seeing? It's consolidating. So it's like, it's not likely to reverse. You know, even the strongest asset in triad after expansion is consolidating. So that's a continuation signature. What's the ideal scenario for trading away from consolidation? It's manipulation paired with an SMT, obviously. And what do we see? The asset that sweeps, it prints a reversal signature, right? It has that swing point. It has the expansion, mouth expansion. But within the expansion, we're seeing some sorts of cracking or strength switching, right? Let me close this. This is a bit too much. So check out, what time was it? Check out this time here, around 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. You see how we're consolidating on this asset that was originally weaker? Over here, where's 8 o'clock? It's right here. Here's 8 o'clock. What are we doing? We're expanding throughout this whole hour, basically. So here is 9 o'clock right here. This whole hour is expanding. Well, this asset is doing what? It's more so consolidating. Literally, it's just consolidating. Okay, why is that? It's so this asset can catch up. Okay. So I'm telling you, like, you need these assets to be, you need to see some sort of strength switching ideally. In the asset that sweeps, we want it to reverse. Okay. So that's just a quick example. I'm not going to go too deep into it because that's in my last video, I think. So let's exit out there. This video is getting long. Now, this PA here is something I took. You can see this is very tough PA for sure. I took a trade like almost every day in this PA, and you can navigate through this with this type of stuff. So let's go over some of the trades. So let's go over here. Like, let's look at this strength switching stuff. So do you see how we kind of expand here and we have a really deep retracement? Now let's compare that to ES. Do you see this really shallow retracement and an even more shallow retracement? So it's like none of these assets over here are showing any sort of reversal in a sense. So like even the weakest asset is showing a continuation signature, because do you see how this expansion was created in like 5 candles while the retracement is created in like 30 or something, or 20? That's already it's very lackluster in the weakest asset. So what's the trigger for this asset to actually expand? It's when this asset switches momentarily to the stronger asset. Okay, so that's what you see here. You can kind of see it here, like we create these highs like 2000 over here, we take them out, where 2100 over here is like it's up here. So that's the form of strength switching right there. So that's why I actually traded this asset here, and that's on my Twitter. This is more recent stuff. This is 15 of May. And even if you look intraday here, you have a 2-stage SMT, where if I go to the lower time from here, boom, here's one SMT, followed by another SMT right here. That's what y'all saw me take. So if I just like bar replay some of this stuff here, you see that we take out this low. Okay, boom, there's your SMT. And then right here at 915 is the low of this, where we take out 915 right here. So here's 915 low. So there's your 2-stage SMT. And what we can pair this with is with the driver. So you see how we create this SMT, right, prior to the driver. That's another thing. If you create a 2-stage SMT prior to a driver, it should do what? It should expand. So if you look at my trades today on NQ, today is May 20th. Go on NQ. We have a form of 2-stage SMT. This is something I don't teach, but there is a 2-stage SMT prior to the driver. You should driver expand into those low resistance lows. But right here, we have an SMT prior to the driver, so we see 930 expand away from that. That's very good, right? And then we form a 2-stage SMT. If we already have some sort of reversal prior to 10 a.m., what should it do? It should expand, right? And we know it's going to expand because of the strength switch, like prior to even this right here. It's just very choppy for sure, but you know, we expanded right here. This is a form of like seek and destroy, which is a continuation signature. So we have the strength switch already. We already know it's going to expand likely. We do expand away from that. Now before the news or before 9:30, we kind of have this seek and destroy kind of signature, right? And you can kind of see that on the higher time from here. Like this is seek and destroy, right? Which is a continuous signature. That's why we expand again. But anyways, I think there's some more stuff I was gonna show y'all around this area. So I traded this, like I said, I traded this as well. I'll show y'all this too. So you guys are getting a lot of shit here. I'm not gonna lie. So if you look here, like we're leaving these equal highs. We're over here. We're having this higher high here. And over here, we're leaving these highs. So remember what I said? Like this is not an ideal SMT. Y'all remember this? Because why? When we actually created this SMT, we didn't expand away from it. We created a new higher high. So it's lower probability, right? So when do I trust this? Well, one thing is it has to hold. So the SMT is holding, as you see. What's the trigger for this to actually reverse? It's a strength switch. So what do you see here? Is 9 o'clock is the high of this little pullback, where 8 o'clock is the high right here. So there is your two-stage cracking correlation right there, and that's when you see the move. I mean, I can't make this shit up, guys. It's like, if there's an enigma, it's this type of shit. And I'm only showing you like half of it. But no one else will show you this shit for free. Like, I guarantee it. But I'm viewing this as what, guys? I'm viewing this as it's lower probability. So I already told you guys this is likely a retracement. Okay? Because this technically is, like, if we go take you can already see it. It's consolidation. Like, we're in a consolidation range. So I want to trade higher to actually target these highs. And that's where we get a two-stage SMT. Right here. So it ends up being a little ugly. But you see how 9 o'clock is the low here? Where over here it's 10 o'clock, right? And we actually trade into this low first. So it's a bit weird. But there's a form of two-stage cracking correlation here. And I'm not even referring to like a swing point in this case. It gets like really ugly, but that stuff, it doesn't even matter. Like it's just this CSD right here. And that was the trigger for the expansion into these low resistance highs. But anyways, yeah, I mean, you see it on both sides here. I don't remember if I traded anything. This is kind of a blur. This is like last week or something. Pretty fucking horrible PA for sure. Maybe I traded on like these assets. I know I took a loss. Yeah, so I did. So I took a loss this day. I long this day on YM. I long this day on YM. I long this on RTY right here. And then today I shorted, or sorry, today this is today. I shorted NQ. So here's the SMT here. Okay. Then I also longed RTY. Okay. And yeah, that's really all I have. No, never mind. We have one more. Okay, we have one more. So if we go here, this PA here, what do we have? We have SMT between bodies. So you see how we close below over here. But so let's go to Forex now. But on this asset, we do not. So that's one cracking correlation, right? And then we see an expansion away from that, where we see this asset actually take out this high. Over here, we're really far away from that high. So what's the ideal scenario for trading a lagging asset? We want it to switch stronger. So what do we have here? A SMT, right? A bullish SMT, where it's actually an SMT right here. At this time, there's an SMT here, but you know it's going to be fake because of this, what you're seeing right here. Okay. It's also between or inside of the new week opening gap. That's another really high probable signature. So this is right here is very high probable what you're seeing right here. And if I go to the lower time frame, I think there was some sort of strength switch. I just don't remember. So here you see clearly we're bullish, we're stronger, but what are we creating right here is a lower low. While on this asset we're creating a higher low. Okay, so that's another form of two-stage SMT. Okay, so it doesn't have to be immediately like remember that roof that I told you guys about, where it's a strength switch SMT or a two-stage. It can also be in the distribution leg away from the SMT. Okay, so I'm gonna leave you guys with that. If you guys would drop me a subscribe and a like or whatever, show some love. If you guys learned something, give me a comment. What do you guys want to see? Give me some comment ideas in the comments section. And if you guys want more videos, I will create more videos, but these take a lot of time to make, the slides and whatnot. So I'll try to get another video when you guys give me ideas out, maybe within the next couple of weeks or whatnot. I don't have a schedule when to do this and whatnot, but I'm really serious about doing that boot camp if you guys really want that. It'll be one of the better boot camps out there, I promise you. Just by this video, you get a glimpse of the caliber of concept or whatnot. But I will leave y'all with that, man. I hope you guys learned something. I really want to see y'all succeed. That's why I do want to share this stuff with you guys. Like I said, I will get to sharing more about SMT in specific. I don't gatekeep anything else. This stuff is really good. There's a couple of reasons why I don't show everything, but hopefully you guys learned something here. And what else, man? That's really it, man. I'll leave you off that. Y'all have a good one.